Let me tell you something unsettling, something you need to sit with if you've ever been tangled up with someone who shows strong narcissistic traits. Their need for control does not always stop where you expect it to. For some people with extreme patterns of entitlement, obsession, and a fragile sense of self, the desire to maintain control can become deeply unhealthy. It can move beyond simply wanting to influence your choices or keep your attention. It can become a desperate attempt to control the story itself, how they are remembered, how they are perceived, and how much space you are allowed to take up in their world. And this is where things become psychologically complicated. For someone who builds their identity around being admired, superior, or always right, another person's independence can feel threatening. Your ability to move forward without them, to find peace without their approval, or to tell your own version of events can challenge the image they have carefully created. Because for some individuals, the most painful thing is not losing access to you. It is losing control over how you see them. They may not simply want distance. They may want to rewrite the entire history of the relationship. They may want to erase the evidence that they were ever vulnerable, that they ever needed you, or that they ever caused harm. The relationship becomes less like a memory and more like a battlefield over reality. This is why some people experience strange and confusing behaviors after separating from someone with strong narcissistic patterns. One day, the person may act as if you meant everything to them. Another day, they may behave as if you never mattered. They may minimize what happened, deny their actions, or portray the relationship in a way that protects their ego. It is not always because they have forgotten. Sometimes it is because remembering threatens the version of themselves they are trying to protect. The signs of this kind of obsession are rarely dramatic at first. They often appear in small, confusing moments: a sudden need to know what you are doing, an unusual interest in who you are spending time with, attempts to control the narrative around the breakup, subtle efforts to make others question your perspective. It may not look like obsession in the beginning because it can hide behind ordinary explanations. Why are they asking about me? Why do they still care what I'm doing if they said they moved on? Why do they seem bothered when I'm happy without them? These questions can create a mental maze because the behavior does not always match the words. Someone may say they do not care, yet still react strongly to your progress. They may claim they are over it, yet become uncomfortable when you stop seeking their validation. They may say they want you gone, yet continue finding ways to remain present in your thoughts. The deeper issue is often not love. It is control. Control over your attention. Control over your emotions. Control over the story you tell yourself about what happened. For someone who depends heavily on external validation, the idea that another person can leave, heal, and become stronger can feel like a loss of power. Your healing becomes a mirror, and sometimes people who do not want to face their own behavior become angry at the person holding up that mirror. But it is important to understand something. Not every difficult ex-partner, emotionally distant person, or selfish individual is secretly plotting to erase you. Human behavior exists on a wide spectrum, and only qualified professionals can diagnose personality disorders. The focus should not be on labeling someone, but on recognizing unhealthy patterns and protecting your own well-being. Because the most dangerous trap is not always what the other person is doing. Sometimes it is what happens inside you when you become consumed by trying to understand them. You start analyzing every message, every silence, every social media action, every coincidence. You spend your energy trying to decode their mind while slowly losing connection with your own, and that is exactly where your power begins to disappear. The greatest form of freedom is not proving that someone else was wrong. It is reaching a place where their actions no longer control your emotional world. You do not need them to admit everything. You do not need them to understand your pain. You do not need them to validate your experience for it to be real. Your story exists because you lived it. Your healing exists because you chose yourself. And the moment you stop fighting for space in someone's mind and start building space in your own life, something changes. The grip weakens. The confusion clears. The endless search for answers begins to quiet. Because the opposite of being erased is not making someone remember you. The opposite of being erased is remembering yourself, remembering your values, remembering your voice, remembering that your existence was never dependent on someone else's ability to appreciate it. Some people may try to rewrite chapters of your story. Some may try to minimize your importance. Some may walk away pretending you were never significant. But your life is not a story they get to edit. The pages belong to you. And the most powerful ending is not when someone finally understands your worth. It is when you no longer need them to. They creep in quietly, hidden in plain sight, until suddenly it's too late to unsee them. So today, let's talk about the subtle signals that show up when a narcissist has crossed that line. When they no longer just want to win, they want to watch you break completely. The first place this shows up isn't in their actions, it's in their imagination. Behind their eyes live twisted little movies, dark daydreams where you're falling apart and they're standing over the wreckage. These aren't passing thoughts. They're obsessive. They replay again and again, feeding on the idea of you stripped of everything, your dignity, your spirit. Sometimes even the fantasy stretches to you being gone from the world entirely. In their mental replay, you're always the one who loses, and they're always the one who wins. If you pay close attention, you'll catch flashes of this. A smirk when you slip up. A strange satisfaction when something valuable slips through your fingers. A joke that cuts way too deep and somehow keeps echoing long after they've said it and moved on. It's chilling to think that someone could nourish themselves on your pain, but that's exactly what's happening, because it hands them a sense of power. Power over you, power over the moment, and most of all, power over the hollow feeling that lives inside them. Your pain becomes evidence in their mind that they're still the one in charge. Your tears don't get met with comfort, they get met with quiet satisfaction. Seeing you hurt confirms to them that they're still running the show. This is the fuel a narcissist runs on. Dominance, control, and the sight of you crumbling. And once they've had a taste of that kind of power, the idea of watching you disappear entirely, silenced, erased, gone, starts to feel less like a stray thought and more like a craving. They won't say any of this outright, of course. It hides behind sarcasm, sharp jokes, little verbal slips that reveal more than they meant to. You'll catch lines like, "You'd be nothing without me," or "You'll regret leaving me one day." On the surface, it sounds like plain arrogance, but underneath, there's something far darker, a private fantasy they're nurturing quietly, one they're not ready to admit even to themselves. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Fantasies eventually push for action. The more they picture your downfall, the more that picture starts demanding to become real. That's why so many people who've survived narcissistic relationships describe this same eerie feeling, like their abuser was almost waiting for them to collapse. That's not paranoia talking, it's instinct. Somewhere deep down, you can sense the difference between someone who simply doesn't like you and someone who actually wants to see you ruined. You feel it in their silence while you're struggling. You feel it in that strange coldness when you fail, and in the flicker of disappointment when you bounce back. They don't want you thriving or happy because your strength is living proof that they don't actually own you, and that's a thought they cannot tolerate. So their imagination darkens even further. It shifts from hoping you fail to picturing you vanishing altogether. That's why those little warning signs matter so much. The odd smile when you're in pain, the strange comfort they find in your misfortune, the unsettling way they almost seem to expect you to fall apart. None of that is coincidence. Those are glimpses into a mind that's quietly rehearsing your ending. And once you finally see it for what it is, you understand just how dangerous that silent fantasy really is. Before a narcissist ever fantasizes about your physical downfall, they go after something crueler first, your sense of self. It doesn't happen overnight. It's slow, deliberate, carefully orchestrated. Piece by piece, they chip away at you until the person you used to be feels like a stranger. This is their real specialty, killing your spirit long before they ever consider ending your presence in their life. It starts small. They question your decisions, your thoughts, your dreams. At first, it might look like concern or advice, but soon it turns into a steady assault on your confidence. Are you sure you can handle that? Nobody else thinks you're capable. You're not as sharp as you think you are. Those words work like slow poison. They seep into your mind bit by bit until one day, without realizing when it happened, you start to believe them. That's stage one, the moment their voice inside your head grows louder than your own. Next comes the isolation. One by one, they start cutting your connections. Friends get labeled bad influences. Family members get painted as jealous or unsupportive. Slowly, you realize you're alone, with the narcissist as your only remaining source of truth. And once theirs is the only voice you hear, their version of reality quietly becomes your reality. They start telling you who you are, what you should want, how you should feel. Bit by bit, you fade. You stop existing as your own person and start existing as their possession, their project, a reflection of what they've built. This isn't love. It's a slow, methodical, psychological takeover. Once they've successfully cut you off from everything that used to ground you, they turn on your passions next. The hobbies that used to bring you joy get mocked. The work you were once proud of gets belittled. The dreams that once gave you hope get laughed at until you feel embarrassed for ever believing in them. What they're really doing is dismantling your identity piece by piece. If they can destroy what makes you unique, they can hollow you out completely. And an empty person is an easy person to discard. This slow erasure of who you are is really the first death in the story they're writing for you. Once they've hollowed you out emotionally, wanting you gone completely isn't much of a leap anymore. They've already tested how far they can push you. They know exactly how much of your spirit they can crush, how much of your fire they can put out, how much of you they can erase without you fighting back. And when they succeed at that, it fuels them. At that point, you're not just someone they dislike, you're someone they've already destroyed on the inside. What makes all of this so frightening is that you often don't even realize it's happening until you're deep in it. One day, you look up and don't recognize the person staring back at you. You second-guess everything you do. You feel small, unworthy, undeserving of love. You start to genuinely believe you'd be nothing without them. None of that is accidental. It's exactly the outcome they were engineering from the start. They want your spirit lifeless long before they ever go after your body or your future. So many survivors of this kind of abuse describe feeling dead inside, and that's precisely the point. The narcissist wants your soul erased before they even consider erasing your presence. Once a narcissist has fully set their sights on tearing you down, control stops being a preference and becomes an obsession. It's no longer about mild influence, it's total domination thereafter. They want ownership of every move you make, every thought you have, every breath you take. They watch your life like a predator watching prey, as though it belongs to them by default. Every choice you make gets scrutinized, questioned, picked apart. The idea of you living any part of your life outside their reach is unbearable to them. A phone call, a text, a simple outing, all of it becomes a perceived threat to the control they're desperate to keep. And the harder you push for your own freedom, the more hostile they get in response. This control usually creeps in quietly at first, dressed up as concern. Who were you talking to? Where are you headed? What exactly did you say to them? These sound like harmless questions on the surface, but they're not. They're surveillance, a way of tracking your every move, predicting your patterns, prepping their next manipulation. They keep a mental file on your friends, your habits, your fears. Every small detail becomes ammunition later. And every time you act independently, they respond with anger, suspicion, or a heavy dose of guilt. What makes this so dangerous is how gradually it escalates. It starts with tiny suggestions, small corrections here and there. Maybe don't wear that. I don't think that person actually likes you. You always mess that up. Slowly, those small comments harden into constant control. Eventually, they're dictating who you see, where you go, what you say. You start doubting your own judgment until giving in just feels easier than pushing back. You tell yourself it's not worth the argument, but every time you concede, the grip tightens. And no matter how much control you hand over, it's never enough. Because they're not looking for balance. They're after total domination. The moment a narcissist senses they can no longer fully control you, that you still have some fight left, some independence, they start seeing you as a threat. And in their mind, threats have to be dealt with. If they can't bend you completely to their will, the only acceptable ending in their eyes is your total destruction. Their obsession with control and their obsession with wanting you gone are two sides of the same coin. What makes it so disturbing is how personal it all feels. This isn't some vague, distant situation. It's intimate. You're not just caught in circumstances. You're being managed by someone who treats your entire existence like a chessboard for their own power plays. The more you resist, the harder they push back. They study your habits, twist situations to their advantage, and test every single limit, hunting for cracks, weak spots, any opening to crush your independence for good. Every time you try to reclaim some control, they come back even harder, because in their mind, you're simply not allowed to exist outside their command. This kind of obsession is draining in ways that are hard to describe. Exhausting, frightening, isolating. You start doubting yourself constantly, second-guessing your own thoughts, afraid of what happens if you try to act freely. And all the while, you're just trying to hold on to your sanity. The narcissist has already started planning ahead, toward the moment they no longer need to control you at all, the moment they can simply erase you instead. Their hunger for control quietly morphs into a hunger for your destruction. To them, control was never just about power. It was about ownership, possession, domination. And when that ownership starts slipping away, the desire to see you completely gone rushes in to take its place. One of the most dangerous, least visible ways a narcissist reveals this hidden wish is by quietly attacking your reputation. They rarely come at you head on. Instead, they operate through whispers, small distortions, half-truths dressed up as concern. This is character assassination, a slow, silent campaign designed to make you look unstable, guilty, or difficult in the eyes of everyone around you. It's subtle enough that outsiders may never notice, but to you, it can feel like your entire world is quietly caving in. While you're focused on holding on to your dignity, they're busy rewriting how everyone else sees you. Smear campaigns are their signature move. It starts small, a slight twist of the truth here, a carefully worded lie disguised as concern there. They feed friends and family half-stories that make you look difficult or unreliable. They give coworkers a version of events that cast them as the victim and you as the problem. And slowly, the people who might have stood beside you start pulling back, unsure of who to believe anymore. These lies are hard to fight precisely because they're wrapped in fragments of truth, timed perfectly to your emotional reactions and shaped around your genuine flaws. By the time you catch on, they've already turned people against you. What makes this tactic so effective is that it strikes before you even know you need to defend yourself. You feel the shift before you understand it. Friends grow distant. Coworkers keep their distance. Family starts looking at you differently. You sense judgment in the air but can't quite pin down why. That's the moment the narcissist feels most satisfied, watching you question your own value, watching you isolated and confused. They don't need to lay a finger on you to destroy you. Your own social circle becomes their weapon. Every relationship in your life gets twisted into another tool of control. By shaping what others think of you, they shrink your world down. Your circle gets smaller. Your confidence gets weaker. Your sense of self starts to feel meaningless. Once they've reached that point, once you're surrounded by silence and suspicion, they've essentially already rehearsed your erasure. They don't need to physically remove you from the picture. In the eyes of others, they've already done it. You start living as a faded version of yourself, second-guessing every move, unsure of what's even true anymore. That confusion is exactly their win. Every rumor, every half-truth, every small lie is another brick added to the wall isolating you. Their real goal isn't just to hurt you, it's to make sure no one believes you, no one backs you up, and no one sees your worth anymore. Once they've accomplished that, they can sit back and watch you struggle to survive in a world they've quietly poisoned against you. That's exactly why catching the early warning signs matters so much. Odd comments from friends, strange distance from coworkers, sudden shifts in how people treat you. None of that is random. Those are signs of a narcissist quietly rehearsing your downfall. Their cruelty runs deeper than manipulation alone. It's fed by the twisted pleasure they take in your pain. Control isn't even the whole point anymore. They want to feel alive off your suffering. Watching you struggle excites them. Seeing you fall apart makes them feel powerful. Your sadness becomes their entertainment. Your fear becomes their joy. Your breakdown becomes their victory. They take quiet delight in every tear you shed, every sleepless night, every moment you feel hopeless. They may never show it openly. Sometimes they hide behind fake kindness, performed sympathy, carefully chosen words that sound like concern, but underneath that mask is cold satisfaction. They're keeping score every single time you break. Every time you struggle, they feel stronger, collecting your pain like trophies. They won't comfort you when you need it. Instead, they'll stand nearby, pretending to care, while secretly feeding off the sight of your suffering. At first, this cruelty seems small, a sharp comment, a sarcastic dig, a hidden insult wrapped in fake advice, but those little moments accumulate. Each one wears down your confidence a bit more until eventually you start believing the lies they've been feeding you about yourself. They plant doubt so deep that you start questioning your own worth entirely. And the moment they spot that confusion in your eyes, they know they've got control. That's exactly the outcome they were aiming for, making you dependent, making you fragile, making you believe peace only exists on their terms. This pattern doesn't stay static. It grows. They keep finding new ways to provoke you, manipulate you, pull you apart piece by piece. Your reactions become their entertainment. Every time you cry, defend yourself, or lose your composure, they chalk it up as another win. They don't respect your strength. They see it as a challenge, something to be crushed. Every act of courage you show only pushes them to be crueler. Your pain becomes their purpose, and your destruction becomes their end goal. What makes all this even more dangerous is how ordinary it can look from the outside. To everyone else, The narcissist often comes across as charming, generous, easygoing. People see them as patient and kind, while you, the one actually living through it, come across as emotional, distant, maybe even unstable. That's by design. They build two completely separate realities, one for the public to see and one just for you. You're living through a private nightmare while they wear a mask of complete innocence for everyone watching. They'll even get you questioning your own perception of things. You'll start wondering if maybe you're the problem, maybe you're too sensitive, maybe you misread the situation. That confusion is exactly what they're after. The more unsure you are of yourself, the easier it becomes for them to control your emotions. And once you can't trust your own judgment anymore, you end up depending on them even more, which only feeds their ego and their sense of superiority. But their ultimate goal reaches even further than control. It slides into something much darker, the fantasy of you disappearing entirely. Watching you suffer is really just a rehearsal for that final act. They want to live in a world where you no longer exist, where your name is forgotten, where any trace of your influence has vanished. This was never about love, and it isn't really about loss either. It's about domination, about winning. You'll notice the shift when they start quietly preparing for a life without you. It happens almost invisibly at first. They begin building a version of life that doesn't include you, new connections, potential replacements, fresh alliances. Maybe they flirt with someone new, start new friendships, align themselves with people who fit their next chapter. To you, this feels cold, almost surreal. To them, it feels thrilling, like freedom. They start studying your life closely, your talents, your achievements, your relationships, even your belongings, imagining how to take them or replace them. This isn't about surviving after you're gone. It's about winning. They want proof that they can not only survive without you, but come out ahead because you're gone. They start mentally rehearsing that victory, picturing themselves as the one who came out on top, stronger, cleaner, more successful. This isn't idle daydreaming. It's preparation. Every move is calculated to make sure that once you're finally out of the picture, there's no trace of you left behind. They slowly erase your influence, replace your connections, hijack your story. You become a ghost before you've even left. They rewrite the narrative so that in everyone else's eyes, you're the villain and they're the one who survived you. And what's most unsettling is how calm they seem during this stage. The rage and arguments fade, and they grow distant, quiet, almost detached. That calm isn't healing, it's calculation. It's the stillness of someone who has already decided your chapter in their story is finished. They're simply waiting for the right moment to close the book. This is the final stage, the shift from control to elimination. Their obsession doesn't stop at owning you. It stretches all the way to erasing you. They want to make sure you have nowhere to return to, no voice left to speak with, no one left who will believe your side of things. It's the cruelest form of power there is, not just controlling your life, but rewriting the memory of your existence entirely. To get through this, you have to see past the mask, understand that their calm isn't peace, their kindness isn't care, their words aren't love. Every single thing is a calculated move in their game, either to maintain control or to prepare for the moment they erase you. Recognize it early, protect your boundaries, guard your name, hold on to your truth, because the moment a narcissist starts imagining a world without you in it, they're already quietly building that world. They're crafting a future where your voice is silenced, your story rewritten, your existence forgotten. But their fantasy doesn't have to become your reality. The power they claim only exists as long as you believe in it. The instant you stop feeding their control, their illusion starts to crack. And in that space, that silence where you finally reclaim your own worth, their whole house of cards begins to collapse.